Another psychological response to injury can be shown through the 4 stages of treatment. So anxiety. Anxiety is a stage of treatment which has positives and negatives alongside the rest of them of anxiety, frustration, motivation and goal setting. So anxiety can help because it helps you carry out training and treatment to a advanced level. So you'll train fully, you will not cut anything out, not take any risks or shortcuts, and you'll also carry out the treatment how you're told to do so, even if you believe it should be done differently, because you're anxious that this may make a change to your recovery. It can help you change your mindset into this way, and your knowledge can be increased, because if you're anxious, you're more likely to do some research, have a look into things, and this will really increase your knowledge and then be able to help you benefit yourself. Although anxiety does have its weaknesses that can hinder getting back to full recovery. So it can lead to a lack of sleep if you're really anxious and worried that something's not going to work. This can lead to a lack of sleep. It can prevent maximal training because at the same time as you wanting to carry it out to its full, anxiety possibly, it can also make you not want to do it because you don't want to train too hard and cause an injury. You may turn down treatments if you're scared. So if you're anxious about needles, you may turn down acupuncture, which may be the treatment that you really require in order to get back in time for an important game. If you're not recovering well because you're all anxious, this can lead to a lack of motivation, which we will go on to later. But if motivation is in place, this can also affect different things. And you'll put training off and prevent going back for as long as you can if you are anxious about getting back there. Linking into frustration, so you will be frustration is a good thing to get you back to normal because it makes you try harder because you're frustrated, so you'll investigate in new treatments, try something new that you haven't before to see if it works. If that doesn't, you may try something new again. So this is really trying to get back to prior peak performance. Although frustration can have negative effects such as lack of motivation, if you are so frustrated and you are not getting to that goal that you want to get to, you are likely to give up that sport. If your treatments aren't working, you're likely to give them up. If they're meant to start making an effect in 4 weeks, but 3 weeks in and it's still not making a difference, you may become frustrated and think it's not worth carrying on for that extra week until it might actually make a difference. Motivation. So this is a positive because it makes you try harder, train harder, excited to get back. All these positives that really help you keep going to get back to how you were before. Although, if you train too hard because you're so motivated to get back, you're going to train every day, 3 times a day, really at your maximal performance, this may make your injury worse. You may think you're doing good, but it might not. If you're really motivated and you have this goal set that you want to get to, if you do not reach that goal set, like trying to lift 90% of what you were lifting beforehand, and you are only lifting 70% at that deadline that you wanted, you may lower your motivation levels and it may really affect your training. And also by having all this motivation, you may start to rush your recovery, and this can affect how it then carries on in the long-term effect. So the last stage of treatment is goal setting. So this really helps by sticking to a program. It's something to work towards. You've got little baby steps that you're following that you know you're actually getting somewhere. So these can be SMART, so you've got specifics, you know exactly what you've got to do. Measurable, you know if you're getting there. Achievable, you know if they're actually possible. And then you've got that you'll be able to reach them in that time and make sure that you know how long you want to take to get to that. Goal setting can, as I've said kind of before, affect your treatment because if you set unrealistic goals, you are not going to achieve them. If you don't achieve them, it's then going to reduce your motivation and you're going to feel pressure to meet these goals. And if you don't have any goals, if you're not overly competitive and you're not too worried about getting back, if you haven't got these goals in place, it will affect you actually having the motivation and determination to get back into the game. So there are some strategies in order to help recovery. These can be shown on the right, so by keeping a diary, stress and relaxation, listening to music, having imagery and self-talk, and staying involved. So, keeping a diary. This allows you to look back at your progress. You can express your feelings to yourself, but keep them there so you know how you're feeling and you can look back and see how you've come on. It can help you be motivated. So if you've achieved something in that day and you make a note of it, you can really think, oh, I've done that today, I've achieved that, I have got to my goal that I wanted. So you can have your goals in there, short, medium and long-term goals. And this really helps you know when you have achieved them, if you are on track to achieve, and kind of if you're getting back to how you were prior to injury. You can also include things like to-do lists. This prevents boredom. So you've got to remember you are out of training, you're out of playing games, you're out of that social aspect. So this really does help by having a to-do list. You are still mentally active. Stress and relaxation. So this can be using calming techniques such as stress balls, but it can go one of two ways. So it can increase arousal if you've got stress. So this may help you. So if you're stressed with the fact you can't play, you may really focus and work well with this. However, if you've got a different personality, the stress can really turn against you. So you might get too stressed and not want to carry on because it's stressing you out. Stress midway and in through recovery can really help to aid motivation and then enhance your recovery. Relaxation is a bit different. So relaxation is required straight after this injury, so before you return. So you need to stay relaxed. You need to not get uptight about when you go back because this can cause injury again. But also you need relaxation straight after this injury so you can calm down, not worry about the implications, and just focus on what's actually happened to you. Stress can be removed by having exercise and music. But this also is difficult if you are severely injured and cannot do any exercise, but this can help you relax. So the music. Music helps relax. It can put you in the right mindset, the mood you need to be in. This can be really helpful throughout injury. So many people have different playlists. This allows one for motivation, possibly, one for when you're working really hard in the gym or trying properly to achieve a goal. You may also need one just to kind of relax through what's happening, as well as ones that help through rehab and really are encouraging for you. But these change from person to person. Imagery and self-talk. So this leads to a positive mindset, positive thoughts, and you get rid of the negatives. So this can keep you focused on competition, and like I said earlier, keeps you mentally active with it. So you can play through scenarios, so you can participate in your own way. So say you've gone to watch a competition, you could pretend you are in this, you are still winning this game, and you are seeing how you are reacting and thinking this through. This helps to keep the neurological pathways alive, and that means when you go back to training, it makes it much easier to get back into your same technique, especially if you're out for a long injury. This can be really challenging. There is one guy who is a rower and he has done this, and he was out for, I believe, 6 months, and he managed to get back in within kind of 2 weeks, back to his full potential, just because he has kept these neurological pathways and spoken to himself about how his rowing technique is, sat there and practiced it. Even though he can't do it, he is mentally thinking he is. Another strategy is staying involved. This prevents isolation, you could take on a role in the team. So you could say to your coach, I need to stay involved. Can I analyse what's happening, help coach, think of tactics you can share, use their social media and try and really bring some followers to the club. So this could be done by observing the games. So if you're going to analyse, observe it, see what's happening, see what could happen instead, and give this feedback, and you will still feel like you are involved. People still respect you. You're still in that social aspect as well. Just after injury, you really don't want to stay apart, because if you are, you're missing out on these team talks just like before a game in the dressing room. So something you could really do is take these rehab exercises that you're getting and use their motivation to get you back. So go to training whilst they're all warming up, do your rehab exercises, and just really get involved as much as you can, even though you are injured. But this is really key that you don't try and get involved too much, because this can lead to an injury. So, some case studies. These are real life athletes that have had a severe injury, and we're going to go through the physiological and psychological responses they've had, and see kind of if every stage applies to them and what happened to them. So this 400-meter sprinter, he had a motorbike accident, so this was irrelevant to his actual sport. So he wasn't sprinting, he wasn't doing anything like that, but he had gone out to have a pre-season in another country. He was doing heat training, and it was for his sprinting, but this isn't how it happened. He was on a motorbike with a friend, a fellow Olympian, who they then had a crash, and he was out for the season. He had a ruptured, strained hamstring, so this was a grade 3 severe injury. So he was out for 6 months to a year, and told that he will miss the season and next year's pre-season. By missing next year's pre-season, he would be going back during peak season. Now, this is a very difficult thing to do because you're kind of halfway and you haven't done that full training to be able to get you to your peak performance. So this guy, because he was quite a well-known sprinter, I think he found acceptance much easier. So his stages of grief, he may not have gone through all. He probably had fear because he didn't know what was happening. Probably felt a little isolated because he's not going to be able to go for that next year's pre-season. He's not going to know how everyone else is doing. He's not going to be able to run against them and see how he feels. Anxiety. He's worried that things might be different next year, who the competition will be next year. And unfortunately for him, because he was out for the season, he has lost his next year's funding. So this is a massive anxiety. This can lead to anger, because what is he going to do? He's going to have to go to work whilst he's injured. He hasn't got this money coming in for his sprinting. So frustration is also present. He may deny that he couldn't go back for next year, although being such an elite athlete, he is likely to accept this and work towards it. So one of his interviews, he said that he accepted his injury because of the great physio he's had, the family and the friends and his coaches are all there to support him, so no one's going against him with this. So this shows that a lot of the emotional factors were in place, but not all of them. So for this athlete, there were some smart targets and strategies put in place to be able to think for how I thought he may be able to get back into playing sport. So by keeping involved mentally, I think this is the most important thing for him. So he needs to be watching the competition, using this imagery and self-talk responses and strategies. So this can be set in kind of a smart way, so it allows him to visualize the competitions and keep his neurological pathways. So that's what we spoke before about the imagery and self-talk. But to keep these targets smart, he needs to go to every 3 competitions and take away 2 tactics at every competition. This may be from different opponents or the same, just so he has an up-to-date visual of what's actually happening with the rest of his competition. He needs to be having a deep tissue massage every 3 weeks once modelling has begun, so this really helps to aid this recovery. To use music and to help regain motivation whilst training to prevent loneliness. So this is one of the strategies I put in place. So if he becomes lonely, he may lose motivation and start to lose self-confidence in how he's going to perform. So this is really important. So he could keep a diary, listen to music and use self-talk and imagery to help him stay on track with his recovery.